Hey, Andrea, thanks for joining us.
Heyo, happy to be here.
I am super excited to have you on the show. How you feeling today?
I'm stoked. This has been a long time coming, so I'm ready to get to it.
All right. So first, guys, I'm going to give you a quick intro. Today we have Andrea Dye joining us on the SHAIR podcast. And Andrea is a directionally challenged expat who no longer needs to huff shoe polish to feel alive. Today she focuses on cultivating the positive impact of living a balanced life. As the creator of Alpha Omega Zen, she collaborates on non-commercial interests with cool folks like me
Like
around the
'em.
world. She is the author of 25 Years, One Lesson. And if you want, you can follow her on Twitter at 25 Years, One Lesson. Sound about right, Andrea?
Sounds good. Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so quick backstory, guys, where serendipitous moments happen. So as you guys know, well, I'm not even going to go that far into the situation. Andrea's husband and I had a relationship prior to meeting Andrea. And this is prior to her moving to Costa Rica. Where were you at the time?
Prior to, I was living in the Philippines.
Okay, so Andrea's in the Philippines, and I'm having dinner with her husband and another business associate. And great time. He's amazing. We had a really, really great evening. Dinner ends. We all disperse. I get a phone call from the other guy, right? The other business partner who introduced me to Andrea's husband. And he's like, dude, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? I go, Jeff's wife knows who you are. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, yeah. We were having dinner and she goes, hey, and if you by chance run into Omar Pinto, tell him I said hello. It was something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I had told him over, I don't know when I started listening to the podcast, and I said, oh, yeah, I like this guy's message. It's really kind of a mix of old school, but like having fun, which is hard to find in recovery. Because I find
Hell
some of
yeah.
the newer people, and I don't mean newer like younger sobriety, I mean newer voices, we'll say, tend to have, I would say, a less 12-step message, but also they're so freaking serious and they get caught up in the psychobabble media kind of talk. And yours was just real talk, and it spoke to me immediately. The first time I listened to it, I said, I like this guy. I like his message. I know where his recovery is at because I can tell by the things he says. And so I told my husband, I mean, I'm in the Philippines. Meetings there are shit. And sorry, PH. And yeah, I said, oh, yeah, there's this guy, Omar, blah, 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 blah. Never thought it would go anywhere. Just offhandedly mentioned it one time. And it turned out, however, a year later, he's having dinner with you without even knowing it.
Dude, that was the best part of the whole thing. And so for me, it was like, well, we were destined to meet. And so Andrea moves down to Costa Rica, and we immediately plan a dinner for his wife. I mean, her husband and my wife. We went out to dinner, and then we've been hanging out ever since. We've been hanging out ever since. We've become really good friends. And that's just the most, I guess my whole thing was we were meant to meet somehow. I told you this. I said,
Yep.
there's no coincidence here. We were meant to meet. And let's get you on the podcast because I think that's part of our journey. And so here we are.
Done and done.
Done and done. All right. So first, Andrea, before we dive into your story, tell us a little bit about what your normal daily routine looks like, including recovery.
All right. My life is pretty tame compared to some people, I think. I don't have any kids. I'm not working right now. So I have kind of a lame, easygoing lifestyle. I do a lot of writing. I play tennis. I like to exercise. Most days I get up around 8:30 probably. Start my day with some warm water with lime squeezed in it. For those healthy folks out there know you don't end up doing stuff like that because you feel good all the time. So I was like, oh, why do I feel like crap every morning? So I started doing what I could do to change that. I sit with coffee for like an hour. I do a bunch of readings. I do some stretching. I try to get my mind right early in the day and just wake up. I'm a night owl, so I tend to wake up pretty late. But that, I would say, I go to the gym, putz around in the kitchen, maybe lay in the sun for a little bit, maybe chop some vegetables, and then all of a sudden it's like 6 o'clock and time for my husband to come home from work.
I love it. I love it. So tell us a little bit about how you maintain your recovery routine.
Oh God, it was drilled into me early. I mean, I feel like I got a full brainwashing when I was in long-term treatment, and it consisted of wake up in the morning, do your readings, turn your will and your life over, pray to whatever you believe in, pray that you find something to believe in. Doesn't matter, just pretend. And so whatever form, whether it's 30 seconds or 1 hour, I still do that to this day when I wake up. It's not usually about gratitude, but sometimes it turns into that. I would say the focus of now my spiritual morning routine. Oh, and I just got a singing bowl, which is really cool. I've never been one to, it goes ding.
Ah, yes. I love those.
It. Yeah.
Yes.
So I've meditated for a while, and I've just never used any of the extra kind of tools. But I would say that my spiritual routine, however long it takes me to get there, I start with the intention of ending at a peaceful place at one with the universe and myself. And whatever I have to do, if I have to listen to somebody else guide a meditation, I will. If I read one sentence and go, zing, I've got it. Great. Whatever that takes is how I maintain it. Because if I go too far from that, then it's harder to get back to it. And I don't like that. It doesn't feel good.
So it sounds like you covered the next question, because usually my next question is, how do you maintain your spiritual condition, that conscious contact with your higher power? Is there anything you want to add to that? Or because it sounds like you pretty much covered it there.
Yeah, I don't think I would add anything to that. I would just say that if I have, well, you know what I would add is much like chocolate, more is always better. And so the more I read, the better it is. And what I like to do actually, because I can overcomplicate everything, is pick one sentence. If I'm starting a new book or a new daily reading, a lot of books that have one reading per day or something like that, I don't even follow the format of what the book gives me. I take one sentence, and that sentence, I read it 10 times, 20 times, and that's my sentence for the day. And it might just be, we start our day looking inward. And it's supposed to be that you read more and all of that, but I take it like very simplistically, and I focus on the intent of that exact sentence. And then that's what I think about through the day, so that anytime I have that to go back to as my thought that started the day, and it'll take me back. Kind of like a memory. I'm sure there's a psychological word for it. Some sort of biofeedback nonsense.
Mantra?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Like a magnet that draws me back to the feeling I had when I thought it that morning, to just kind of rein myself back in. Because I like to break down the fence and, buck in the forest a little bit. So I need things that keep me uncomplicated.
Buck in the forest?
If I was a crazy horse or something that, broke through
buck
the
in the
fence.
forest.
Yeah, buck in the forest.
Oh.
I'm too old for the other stuff. Yeah, no. This is going to go downhill real quick. We can't even get through the second question on spiritual condition.
I couldn't help it. It was like a fucking softball. Lobbed right at me.
Oh my God. I am the VIP of assists. You're welcome.
Oh, that was awesome. So what I would call that is an anchor. So you have
an anchor.
Okay, so
yes.
I read this passage.
Yes.
I use it as my mantra for the day. It anchors me. So whenever I need to connect with that intention, right, I use that phrase.
Blah, blah. Yep, okay. Exactly.
Got it. Love it. Love it.
Yep.
That's actually beautiful, because simple is always better. And to remember one line is not so difficult. If I have to remember a whole paragraph or a whole message, right, it's just all I need is the tagline.
Yep.
And I can take that throughout my day.
And if it doesn't work the next day and I read that line again, I'm like, wait, did I just do that one? If I can't remember, I do it again. I've done that where I've been on the same page for like 3 weeks.
Keep it simple.
Yep.
Keep it simple. I love it. All right. So, Andrea, when is your clean date and how much clean time do you have?
My clean date, September 22nd, my dad's birthday of 1991. So 26 years.
Oof, love it. September 22nd. So we're coming up on it. All right, beautiful. And tell us how old you were the first time you drank or used drugs. More importantly, how did they make you feel?
Yeah, God, because I hear you ask people this. I'm going to guess I was 12. I couldn't really tell you. Um, Alcohol was what I first fell in love with. That whoosh of hot, burning, holy shit, where has this been my whole life? Is the only way I can describe. I mean, from the first time it went down my gullet, I said, yes, thank you. Nothing else existed. I didn't care about anything else. And it tastes horrible. I mean, I think beer tastes like piss. Wine is disgusting. Like, it reminds me of bile. Like, I don't want any part of any of that. I want hard liquor and nothing else. And that's all I ever cared about.
Go straight to the source.
Yep. So anyways, to answer your question, it made me feel like some door to some alternate universe I never knew existed was opened. And I was finally going to be happy.
Yes. Yes. We all feel that way, or not all of us. But
I know.
So many of us feel that way, but I love the way you just explained it. Open the door to an alternate universe, right? And I was going to be happy.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's all I want. I just want to be I want to feel comfortable in my own skin. And up until this moment, I haven't been able to do that. And this just allowed me to do it. Yeah.
I didn't believe I wanted to get sober, but when I got into the program, and it wasn't even the first treatment place I was in, but and I heard people talk about that feeling of, it was like the automatic connection, like this thing that had been missing from your life was now there. And I went, ah, shit, because I knew they said it. I'd been thinking it, but I'd never said it to anybody. And I couldn't even identify it, if that makes sense. But I heard it and I went, oh, well, fuck, I'm one of them. All right, fine. I'm a fucking alcoholic. I get it now, you know? But people, you have a drinking problem. You shouldn't be drinking. Oh my God, you always black out. Oh, you turn into a horrible person and all of that. And I was like, yeah, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And then I heard an alcoholic that was in recovery say that. And I went, oh, the gig was up. Do you know? Like, you can't hide from that.
It's funny how subtle the denial system can be. And all it takes is just the right phrase or the right couple of words, and all of a sudden it's like the penny drops.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, I'm one of those. All right. So you're warmed up, Andrea. It's time for me to turn this show over to you. It's time for you to share with us your story. The battle with drugs and alcohol, the wreckage it caused in your life when you hit rock bottom, and then finally your journey into recovery up until today. So Andrea, take it away.
Thanks, Omar. I would say I didn't have a problem until I was like 14, probably, because I couldn't really get a hold of a lot of stuff. I lived in a fairly small town in upstate New York. I was off the beaten path without a lot of neighbors. I had a lot of time to myself in the forest. And I had a wild imagination and wild amount of dreams and things I wanted to accomplish. And I found that when I drank, I could feel as though I was living those dreams, but didn't actually have to leave, you know, the treehouse or my bedroom. Or I thought, well, shit, what more do I need? This is great. The sad side of that, as I'm sure a lot of listeners know, is that it zapped all of my motivation to do anything in actual real life. So any friendships that I had been cultivating were quickly destroyed because I no longer cared what other people wanted in life. I immediately became a toxic combination of a teenager who only wanted alcohol and a teenager who was a teenager, in case you've ever been around a teenager, you know what I mean? So I was selfish squared. I was devious. I was actually working. I had a paper route and also worked at a local horse stable because I was a avid horse person. So I had a lot of excuses to be away on my bicycle. I had a lot of access to, at that time, what was enough cash to go and, start buying pot, start experimenting with things. The reality of my life was that I was a teenage girl who was mature for my age, and there were always people older than me that were willing to buy me things, share their bottles with me, that sort of stuff. And I was crazy. I would do anything. I would go anywhere. I'd sneak out in the middle of the night any night anybody invited me somewhere. So I was always happy to go out and party with people, and routinely lied to people and told them I was 17, I was 18. Oh, yeah, I just don't have a driver's license. Like any lie I had to, in order to have access to places where there were more drugs and alcohol. I had a pretty kind of standard American suburban upbringing, so no particular problems in my family or reasons that I should have done this. I would say I had very poor coping skills for things that in my life came along that I didn't like. I now call it being dramatic, but at the time, I really do feel ill-equipped to have faced some of the things that I don't know how to say it. If I think like most kids, I started having some problems with classmates or teachers, or I was quite belligerent. I was quite stubborn. And that actually predated my drinking. The best example I'll give, and it only because it does predate my drinking, and it really is an easy example to show when people say, oh, well, how could you have a problem? You were so young. My problem wasn't just alcohol, and it wasn't just drugs. My problem was how I felt about the world, and then how I felt after I had alcohol and drugs in my system, which is why I'm still in recovery. I still go to meetings. I still talk to people in recovery because it matters to me, because I don't want to ever feel like I felt before. But we were in 6th grade, so I was 12 years old, and we were going to some museum for something, and the teacher said, you have to have this permission slip, and take these home, have your parents sign them. So asshole Andrea thinks to herself, well, if it's a permission slip and I don't turn it in, therefore I'm not permitted to go. They can't make me go. If I don't have permission to go, then I don't have to go. So I don't turn in the permission slip. They keep asking me, and I'm, the same thing I hear from people, let's say, reading the Big Book for the first time, or hearing the steps for the first time, and they want to semantically or linguistically just tear apart every single aspect of the program, and how they're not, they don't need to follow it. They don't need the advice. This doesn't apply to them. I was already doing that, and I wasn't even a fucking drunk yet, and consequences, punishment, it didn't even faze me. I literally couldn't have cared less. I made it through junior high school. Well, the follow-up to that story was I just had to sit in the library all day and write a book report. So my parents actually supported me in my, well, if it's not required and you need permission. And I feel like there was this little bit of enabling that went on with that, because I was so independent and I would stand up for things, and they wanted me to be independent and stand up for myself. And that's a recurring theme in my life, where if I really took a stand, okay, you're sure you want to run away? You're sure you want to leave home? Okay, well, fine, go for it. And once I step out, then I can't really turn back because I'm stubborn, right? So little things led to bigger things. I loved stealing shit. I thought that was the best thing ever. And I don't want to say too much about that. Nothing that could come back and haunt me, but I feel bad for the people that I stole a lot of things from. Some of them still live in the same houses I stole from them when I was younger, and my family still lives in the same neighborhood. So I'm like, hi guys, when I see them now, on family visits. Sorry about that. And maybe, I'm sure they never knew that it was me. Who would have thought? I was an innocent little teenage kid, delivering their papers. I mean, what a little dirtbag. But yeah, so I made it through junior high kind of. I would say each year I lost another friend or two. And by the time I was in 9th grade, I was, getting high daily, drinking to oblivion, blackout. every Friday and Saturday night. I don't know what happened other than at some point I switched from a public school to a private school, and I honestly don't really recall what happened. I know part of it was some sort of death threat scenario, and I don't even know who threatened who or what happened. And I remember there being concern, and people were like, oh, Andrea's got these, you know, problems, and we're really concerned. And I thought, so I can get out of here? I didn't care about any of it. I wasn't trying to go to a better school. I just wanted to escape the situation I was in, because I'd gotten myself in this fucked up situation where basically probably everyone around me was sick of my shit. I would routinely drink to the point of blackout, puke on people, piss on people's families' furnitures, like whatever it was. I would get left in parking lots. I would get left at the end of my parents' driveway. I didn't know what I was doing after I started drinking. And I was a complete disaster. So I had no friends left. I got then transferred to a private school, and I thought, well, this will be good. Nobody will have any idea what I'm up to. And I think I made it like 3 days. And it was probably one of the worst blackouts I've ever had. And this was one where I ended up in a snowbank with no pants, no shoes. I'm not sure who took me there or how I ended up there. I remember kind of, you know, flashes of what happened that night. And I mean, it wasn't really good. I'll say that. This was my party night to myself for my 16th birthday, to give you a, you know, age range on that. I had somebody show up at my house the next day and apparently bring some items of mine that I had left somewhere the night before. There was talk about maybe the police getting involved in something. I was so sick, I couldn't tell you what happened. I don't remember probably that entire year of my life. And it was not even 6 months later, and I decided I couldn't live at home anymore because there were too many rules. You know, like I did whatever the fuck I wanted, whenever the fuck I wanted, and I couldn't take it anymore, you know? After my 16th birthday shenanigans, I think I went to some sort of outpatient thing after school. I don't really remember that. I remember thinking, like, the people that were in there for having gotten DWIs, I thought, oh, what a loser. Like, how do you get caught for something like, now I'm sitting next to them, but it doesn't occur to me that we're all in there because we've all been caught. All I know is I'm a kid, they're an adult, and I get to party when it's legal for me to party, and I've just got to get to 21. Like, there was the only thing I thought about. How can I get a job and have enough money to drink and have it be legal? Like, every single motivation I had was to get to that point. So I saw an ad in the paper. It was for a pizza cook in the Adirondacks at a motel. I paid, I believe, $125 a week, and you got a room above the hotel or the motel. Oh my God. Well, shit, I knew how to make pizza, believe it or not. I thought, well, this is great. So the guy who used to hook me up at the time, I called him because I knew his brother had a car. And his brother drove me and a parakeet up to this motel. I guess at some point I got in the job. I don't know. Anyways, I end up living in this motel. And they knew how old I was because I had to show my driver's license in order to get the job. But everyone else that lived there was like a 20-year-old version of me, a 25-year-old version of me, a 40-year-old version of me, and a 60-year-old version of me that lived in a trailer behind the motel. And these were my buddies, and these were the people that understood me, and these were the people where we could sit around. I mean, all I remember at the time was like AC/DC was big, and is it Sabotage? I don't know, just absolute shit music. Lots of those like Mexican blankets covering windows. And the only thing I cared about was making it through my shift so I could get fucked up, so that I could make it through my shift so that I could get fucked up. And I tried to enroll in school. That didn't work because I hadn't really legally left home. I don't know if there was something happened with a social worker and something. And I want to say I made it to school for like 3 days before they didn't want me there anymore. I showed up the first day. So this would have been my, what's 11th grade? Junior year?
Yes.
Like moccasins with holes in them. I had like a big mug of coffee, chain smoking Marlboros, like just hanging out in front of high school, you know, like, hi guys, like I'm ready for school. And they were like, excuse me, dear, where are your parents? You know, like I didn't think rules applied to me. I just do what I want. I was never adverse to school. I liked learning. I liked reading. I thought it was important to get an education. That was like bred into me. So I don't know. I guess I just kind of thought that I should do that. And then that would mean that I was like going to get where I needed to get in life, which was be 21 and have a job and party. I didn't have really any consequences at that point until the inaugural Lollapalooza, which was 1991.
Dude.
And
Just
I'll just say this. It was
rock on, dude.
Yeah. It was the most acid I ever took in my life.
Yeah,
I had been given a bunch of money from a bunch of my coworkers and my boss at the time to come home with a bundle of goodies. And I don't know, I woke up in a cardboard box behind a grocery store somewhere off the highway between the concert venue and the motel. And I'm not really sure what happened or how I got there, but those kinds of things happening again and again. I just thought it was this sick kind of romantic life.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was dangerous. I didn't think anything was going to happen to me. Like, I don't know how I was that delusional, but I really didn't see it. I don't know. There was an intervention. My parents came. My brother tricked me into, he was in the Navy at the time. He came to pick me up and he said he had gotten leave and he was just up to visit me. And so this is like, obviously, I guess, September. And all I remember is him driving through the woods, and I was fucked up that day. I mean, my brother was no stranger to smoking some weed when he was in college, and he was quite a bit older than me. So I thought, oh, great, he's coming to town. Let's get like ripped. And sorry, my husband's Canadian. Did I just say ripped? So
you did.
I did. So yeah, all I remember is thinking, I can't believe my dad let him drive his car, because that was like a no-go in the household. And then how does he know where we're going? And looking out and seeing all these trees and being very confused and coming to this little building in the middle of the woods somewhere. I mean, we're literally up in the Adirondack fucking mountains. And I look back now and it breaks my heart that these were the lengths my parents had to go to. I don't know how far this is from my house. I think 4 hours from where my parents live. And they had arranged all of this to come to me, to get me out of there, because they knew more than I knew. Well, the part I left out is that when I came back from Lollapalooza, I didn't have any of the money I was supposed to have, and I didn't have any of the drugs I was supposed to have. And now everybody's really mad at me. And when I say really mad at me, I mean, they're like really mad at me. It wasn't an insignificant amount of money. And I was just like, maybe I need to like get my shit and get the fuck out of here like ASAP. It was that kind of situation. And it was no joke within the same like 48 hours as when my brother showed up. So I didn't care where he wanted to take me. I wanted to go with him because I had just burned every bridge I had. And I thought, oh, that's okay, guys. I'll get your money back. Don't worry about it. Like I was going to come up with something. But it was not good. It was not good. And I don't even know. I mean, to this day, my parents don't know that. So if they're listening, love ya. But that wasn't good. Anyway, so they had this intervention and everybody read their little letters. And I remember thinking, who's that lady? And then, what's that person doing here? Like, I couldn't even tell you what they were trying to get through to me. I couldn't, like, it makes me a little sad. But when people are like semi-conscious, nodding off in, like, on the show intervention, nothing they said got through to me. I heard, we can get you out of this situation you're in right now. And I said, sure, sounds good to me. And they all left going, oh, thank goodness, Andy's finally going to get sober. And I was like, thank goodness, Andy's not going to get sold, fucking whatever they might do to me to get this fucking money back. Yep. I didn't care. And then I went to some place in New Hampshire for a 30-day in-house, and I had taken some stuff with me. So I couldn't tell you exactly my sober date, but I picked my dad's birthday because at the time I thought that would prove to my parents that I was serious, even though that wasn't why I picked it. Or that wasn't, I didn't mean to get sober. I ran out of stuff I snuck in with me. And they had taken, I had this nice little bowl I used to smoke out of. And I thought, well, I'll get that back. That'll be fine. You know, surely they're just hanging on to it for me because that's how it works at rehab, right? And, but I had some other things I had sewn into a jacket because I heard that worked in outpatient. They had told me that. You know, they're going to go through all your stuff if you ever go somewhere. So sew it into the lining of all your clothes. I was like, oh, good idea. Thanks, guys. Well, that stuff ran out. And I had a susceptible roommate who was actually only 15. And I coerced her into breaking into the cleaning closet for me and getting me some cleaning supplies. Because I love to huff because it's cheap. And if you steal shit, you steal whatever you want. You can get high off almost anything. And I was at that point desperate for anything because it was the first time I'd probably been sober. And I don't know how long, but it was unacceptable to me to go a day and be sober. So I'd say the last week I was there was maybe the first week I was ever sober. It was an outward bound program where we slept in a hospital at night, and during the day we camped and hiked and rappelled and canoed, and I thought of every way I possibly could to run away. I didn't care if they shot me in the back. I didn't care if wolves got me. I was like, holy shit. And the care and kindness of these counselors trying to help the poor teenager who was lost. And I just wanted to spit in their face, tell them they were idiots. Why are you wasting your fucking time? Like, this isn't going to work. You don't understand. I don't give a shit, you know? And I didn't. We at one point actually broke into an air conditioner. I was like, we got to be able to get something out of this. I mean, I'm in rehab breaking into a window air conditioner in like one of those auxiliary trailers that they set up at a construction site, thinking there's got to be a way I can suck freon out of this and get high. So I knew I wasn't going to stay sober when I left there. And somehow word got out that maybe I wasn't going to stay sober when I left there. So I was asked to go to a long-term treatment center. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea. And then I realized I didn't have anywhere else to go. So I thought, okay, well, that'll do. So my treatment had always been the most convenient, or like, if it sounds horrible, but like when they take cows to the market or slaughter or whatever it is, and they have those big cow chutes, there's only one way they can go. They close all the other chutes. And that was kind of, I just kept getting corralled from best scenario, because my next step was no money on my own on the side of the road, you know, and that never worked out for me. So I got flown to Arizona. I remember on the plane trying to convince the stewardess that I was old enough, that my brother was my husband, and that it was okay if I drank. I'm 16, trying to convince, I mean, give me a fucking break. Like, I didn't even realize what a loser I was. I thought I was living the life, pulling one over on everybody. And it's actually really sad when I look back on it. But so I got to long-term care. Awesome, amazing program. It isn't around anymore. There's kind of a few that sprung off of it. The change for me was 4 months in. I had never once offered to share. We had 2 meetings a day, 2 groups a day, and you had to work in the morning on like some shift around the ranch, right? So you had from 5:30 a.m. until 9 p.m. at night, 2 hours of free time. And the rest of the time it was, you are getting sober, you are working a program, you are in a therapy group, you are talking to a sponsor, you are doing something, you are not having a second to think for yourself. Could not have asked for a more effective way to stop my brain from trying to control me, because it was the first time I'd ever been inundated with so much stuff I didn't want to do. I had no choice to do, but it was actually like feeding a part of me that I needed. I just didn't even know it ever existed. So anyways, I was like the quiet, judgy one that sat in groups. You know, how sad this lady lost her kids. Please how irresponsible, what kind of maniac can't even contain, you know, like I just judging everybody, judging everything. I got to see a lot of people who wasted more years of their life than I had even lived. Drinking, drugging. Some people waste 50 years. There were people there in their 70s who had 6 months sober. And that wore me down. I was 4 months in when, for the first time, I raised my hand to SHAIR in a meeting. I'll never forget because it was a fire pit meeting. It was outside. And under the stars and this roaring fire, I raised my hand and you could hear this gasp. Like, because why would she want to share? She never talks. She doesn't. I wanted to be invisible. Everything about my entire life up until that point was oblivion and just being somewhere else from where I was. And I don't know what it was. I don't know what I said. But when I finished talking, I felt this weird feeling inside. And it was actually a tiny little bit of peace. And I went, oh, I like that. And then I had this kind of new thing to look forward to, which was maybe these people aren't lying. Maybe there is hope. Maybe I don't need substances. So my 4-month mark was when things started to change for me. I'm not going to say I dug in and became a model recovery kid. But I did listen to people, and I really think that if I hadn't been in that place, I would have never stayed sober. There were times when, well, I think like anywhere, when you're in treatment, new people come, everybody sizes up the newbie. And there were times when I looked at people coming in as potential vehicles for me to be able to get out. And there were times that people came in and I thought, oh, let me welcome them and make sure they're, you know, getting what they need. They don't feel alone. Like there were times when I was starting to feel a little bit selfless. And then there were other times when I just saw, what can they do for me? What can they do for me? And I started to, God forbid, see people laugh. I started to see some people that graduated the program come back for like the Sunday night dinner where other people, you know, off the property were allowed to come in. And I want to note, this was a inpatient treatment program for 12 months straight. I ended up staying for an extra 3 months on this kind of, we know you're not ready to be released into the world program. And I want to say it was called LIP, like, no, LIT, Leaders in Training, which I think is freaking hilarious because it's literally called LIT. But so, but it gave me a chance to start to like get a paycheck. I wouldn't say it taught me how to budget money at all, but it was a good transitional period because I thought I was too good for a halfway house. So I could still live there in the same room with the same roommate who was at that time, let's say 4 months clean, but be a graduate of the program and still have the support network of everything that was there. That was very important for me. At that point, I was 17, turning 18. So I was in treatment my 17th birthday and my 18th birthday. And then, like I always do, I saved some money. I bought a car and I was like, I'm getting the hell out of here because I'm a runner. I'm a next best, I don't like this, let me get out of this kind of person. The difference was I had dreams back again. I had things I wanted to do with my life back again. All the things that when I was younger, I wanted to be or thought about doing. I was remotivated and I felt, for whatever reason, even though I had at that point absolutely no more education, I was actually the reverse. I would say I was much less educated at that point. I believed I could do anything. And that was the freedom that sobriety and the kind of core basic foundational day-to-day coping skills and recovery tools, you would call them, I suppose, gave me hope and this fearless determination that, fuck it, if it's in my way and I overcame this, to every problem there is a solution. I must have said it 1,000 times when I first got out. So it didn't matter. They were like, well, you can't go to college if you don't have, I was like, to every problem there's a solution. I don't care. You can't tell me I can't. So nowadays I use my stubbornness to my advantage. I got out of that program, went back to New York. I tried to enroll in college, and I got a wake up call that I was still the outsider. I was still the one that didn't fit in anywhere. And the difference was I said, okay, take a breath, ask for help. I had skills to deal with the fact that I couldn't deal with going to school. I wasn't ready. So I dropped out of the semester. I got a regular job. And I mean, I was probably at that point going to like 4 or 5 meetings a week. I still needed a lot of support. I had 0 friends my age. I went to senior prom sober, even though I hadn't been in school in 2 years. And I realized I didn't belong with anyone my own age. And I would say I spent the next like 4 or 5 years just with my head down, doing my own thing, trying to figure out how to get through school, how to make money, how to get ahead, how to do what I needed to do to get to the next thing I wanted to do. And the relationship with my family was rocky at that point. I don't think my mom trusted me for years. I mean, I had burned a lot of bridges with her. But I would say in a nutshell, that was kind of where I was and where I got to. It's a lot to cover from 1991 to now. So I don't know if you want to give me some direction on where you want me to go with it.
Well, this is you were doing perfect, because this is exactly, what I want to know. I mean, getting to 26 years, there's a lot,
Yeah.
right? But there's certainly benchmarks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Throughout your recovery. Like there's the first year and what happened that first year. And then, 5 years is a big milestone, right? And so what kind of things did you start to experience as those milestones started to approach, as you got to your 1 year, as you got to your 5 year, how you got to your 10 years? Because I know that for me, I had like specific events that marked those places in time. What would you say were some of those benchmark moments that you can share with us? Because in the beginning, it's like the aha moment happens and I start to embrace the program and I start to go to meeting 4 or 5 times a week and I'm getting something. Now what happens next, now that I'm rolling?
Yep. Oh, that's a good question. I had finally, I would say I think it was 97. So I was about 5, going on 6 years clean at that point. Started to finally kind of clear out all I caught up, let's say, with where other people my age were. Other people my age had graduated college. They were having their first job. I got, from community college to a different community college to night classes to summer classes, bopping around trying to accumulate credits. And again, I just wanted to play with horses and do my own thing and not really, I just hated being told what to do, so you have to get these classes and they have to be, and there's a Queen song. There's I've got to break free. That's like my mantra. I'm like, out of my way. Like I just can't stand feeling trapped. So it was really hard for me to do even more than 1 semester at the same school. Mm-hmm. And then it's really hard to get a degree. So anyway, I moved to a bunch of different places, but I was always chasing horses. And as I got, I'd say, more skilled, I was able to get better jobs. And going from steeplechase racing to flat racing was a big jump. And when I was in steeplechase racing in like the Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania area, I would say it was the first time I was socially tested in my sobriety. It is the best party sport I have ever seen in my life. I don't know a single other person in steeplechase that's sober. If you're out there, find me on Twitter and say hi. But holy shit. Great. Like people say, oh, you got to be crazy to do that stuff. I'm like, no. Everybody's fucked up. And it's awesome and it's a lot of fun. And the horses are magnificent, athletic creatures made by God. But at a certain point, I didn't like the craziness of it. And I said, okay, flat racing is a regular paycheck. You get paid a lot more money. So I switched over to thoroughbred racing. And I just followed the jobs. So I spent a lot of time in New York. I spent some time in Florida. I spent some time in California. And I don't know that most of your listeners are probably 12-step, but everywhere I went, there were meetings. Everywhere I went, there was someone who, was happy to give me their number and say, come over on Sunday night. We're having dinner. I was very awkward and I was very uncomfortable. So I would go to a meeting and then I would just say, oh, thank you, and leave. And I would lie to people. I mean, I was very comfortable in early sobriety. And I know maybe it sounds crazy to say 5 years in was early sobriety, but looking back, it was early sobriety for me. So I don't know any different. But there were times in my early sobriety where I still, let's say, did things that were not legal, involving pharmaceutical products. They're not ingesting. There were things that I did that I would not do now on an integrity level, just in relationships. There were things. So that's what I mean when I say I was tested. Being surrounded by people that drank, that got high, that partied like crazy. A lot of people that, a lot of gamblers in horse racing. So, you win big, you hit a big race, have a nice horse, that sort of thing. There's influxes of cash. And I had to walk away from so many dinners, so many parties that I just ended up honestly not having any friends at work. I just went, I did my thing. I enjoyed what I did, and I'd go to a meeting. And it turned a lot of people thinking I was something I wasn't, like, oh, she thinks she's better than us, or, oh, what a bitch, she's this. And I just had to tune it out, and it didn't matter because my life, my sobriety was more important to me. So I hit a nice groove, living on Long Island, and awesome meetings in Garden City, which was where I went for years. And I felt like I was an adult finally. And I could pay my bills, and I had, car insurance, and I had, at this point, cell phones finally were invented. And so I got a cell phone, which was like, oh my gosh, the freedom of it. But the nice thing about that was that I could be at work, sometimes 12 hours. If you have a lot of horses running, you're at the racetrack all day long. I could call someone and talk to someone. If I had an argument with a coworker, I have a lot more patience now, and I can stop, and I don't say mean things to people. That was not the case for at least the first 10 years of my sobriety, because I felt like the only thing, and I maintain it, the only thing that matters is I did not drink. I did not get high. My behavior sometimes was horrible, but I didn't fucking drink. And so I would lash out at people. I was very aggressive verbally with people. And I know now it was out of insecurity and fear, but at the time, I didn't know that. I thought I was just being tough and, keeping people from messing with me or whatever. Like, it's so ridiculous. So there's no part of me that looks back and says, oh, I was like this model sobriety girl. I wasn't. The only thing I did right was not pick up. Everything else, there were times I turned away from a higher power. There were times I turned away from 12-step meetings. There were times I, was in places I shouldn't have been. Absolutely. I was a college age kid going to college age parties and then going, ooh, this is really, really not somewhere I should be right now, and leaving. Mm-hmm. And the next week, it's not fair. I want friends. I want to go anyways. And I would go, and I would find myself then sitting in meetings. And instead of saying, oh, I went to this party, it was really hard to be around the smells or the sounds or the people or whatever it was. Oh no, I was just home. I couldn't admit to people in an anonymous program that I was like sitting next to people, doing funnels, and I didn't feel comfortable being honest about certain things. That was, I could be honest with my close friends or my sponsor, or certainly any counselors I had early on. But to say I just all of a sudden one day, no, I would say 5 years to start feeling comfortable being social. And part of that was I was so young, I didn't understand. I missed out on all the socialization you get in school. And then the next 5 years to learn how to be on the other side of a relationship where it was a two-way street. That I would say was the next big benchmark for me, because I could be a good friend to someone in the rooms that needed a hand or an ear or whatever. But that was like a 20-minute car ride, an hour at a meeting. Haha, what a good person I am. But then I couldn't, with someone I was dating, be a good person. I couldn't listen to them. I was like, yeah, that's nice. I've got to go now. You know, like I didn't have a capacity to hold myself together and be part of a relationship with somebody else. So I would say that 5 to 10 years in, when I was in my late 20s, like 26, 27, was when I finally started seeing there was a bigger world of what recovery had given me, and I could apply things in more places. And then after that, I was 33, I think, when I had a chronic health condition, knock me on my ass. And that was, I would say, the next phase of my life in recovery was learning how to deal with pain sober, learning how to deal with a whole new type of fear I had never experienced, one of kind of a mortal, confused with my own body fear. And the easiest thing I can say is it turned me closer to God. So I can't say it wasn't a good thing. I never, ever wish it on anybody, but I was backed into a corner. I feel like I had no choice because I come out swinging no matter what. So I got knocked down and my body was failing me. And I didn't care if all I could do to swing was, flick a grape at it. I was going to do something, but back to the kind of simple mantra, small things. To every problem, there is a solution. Is, okay, this is here. It has not gotten me beat. Every single person that has come before me says this too shall pass. You will get through this. Have faith in God. You will get through this. And don't get me wrong. There were dark fucking days. Like, I'm human. Underneath it all, I had a belief. It was the same belief I had at that fireside meeting at 4 months, where I felt a peace and a serenity that I believed to be kind of the breath of God finally entering my body for the first time, that I felt even the whole time I was ill. And there would be people that say, oh, do you think it could be this? Do you think it could be that? Do you think, do you worry about this? And I'd say, you know what, underneath it all, I know it's okay. Andrea would get anxious. Andrea would be scared sometimes. But the me that kind of supersedes Andrea, the whatever thing we all have in us that you can't explain thing, somehow knew it was going to be okay. I would have never believed that if I hadn't been really brainwashed into, you wake up, you turn your life. It's not my life. It's not my will. I'm here to do whatever it is that God wants me to do today. And I'm not a particularly altruistic person. I'm a very generous person. I'm happy to help people. It is not in my nature to kind of stand up and say, hi, how can I help you today? Not my nature. My nature is, how can I get what you have? I want it. So all of the program and all of the readings and spiritual practice, it saved me obviously from drinking or using when maybe I still had urges or cravings, or still thought I could get away with it when I was younger, in my 20s, but it ultimately really saved me in my 30s, because I know exactly how easy it would have been in dark times when you're sobbing in pain and no one understands and no one can help, how easy a pill would be, how easy a drink would be. Oh, wow, maybe you'll sleep now. But it was never okay for me, because I didn't do all of that hard work, literally, spiritually, and emotionally killing myself through treatment, the work I fucking did in that place, to ever have to go through it again. I feel like I cleared it out and I'm never letting it back in. I see a spider, I kill it. I want no cobwebs. If there's no spiders, there's no cobwebs. Like, a very daily, cleansing ritual kind of thing, you know, 4th and 10th, 4th and 10th. You don't have to do the 4th if you do the 10th every day. I still do 4th sometimes. You know, I'm human. I don't clean it every day like I'm supposed to. The daily inventory, I don't. But that's the goal, and that's what I strive for. So yeah, I would say I'm at this phase now where I can't fucking believe it. The sobriety portion of it is bizarre in that if you had told me, I would have said, yeah, of course, because I believe I can accomplish anything. But deep down, there would have been a voice that's like, yeah, right. Very, very, very early on, the Northwest Alano Club in Tucson, Arizona is where I got sober going to meetings. And there was a woman there who had just gone on a cruise ship, and she had been, prior to the cruise, 25 years sober. And she came back and told everybody she relapsed. And I went, wait, I'm sorry, come again? In my head, I sat there. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. This is a woman who I saw, you know, how many times a week, the greatest message ever, 25 years sober, living the fucking dream, happy, smiling, friends, everybody adores her. What do you mean you drank? And she goes, I don't know. This voice came over me and I thought I could drink and it wouldn't, you know, like it wouldn't be like it used to be. And I thought, okay, I have to remember that. You know, like honestly, I kind of put that one in my back pocket because I thought, okay, well, I've got to get to 25 years. And then if I have that thought, I have to not do it the way she did it. No joke. That is literally what I thought to myself. It was like a benchmark. So then I made it to 25 and I thought, okay, like it feels silly to count, to be honest. At this point, it feels stupid counting. It's my life, you know, it doesn't matter how long it's been, but yeah, okay. I'm finally out of air.
Okay. All right. So what was the inspiration for the book?
Ooh, I had, you know, like I said, I sometimes a little tad bit selfish, and it was very hard for me to understand what my addiction was like for my parents. My mom tried everything and anything again and again and again. There were many other things that didn't get talked about when I shared just now, of my mom trying to save me before it was too late. She was pretty convinced I was going to die. And I look back thinking, as a mother, now that I'm in my 40s, I can understand a little bit more what it might be like to look at a child, you know? And I had a notebook I used to write in. And I don't know if other people do this, but I thought it was important that if I knew I was going to get really messed up, particularly if I was huffing something I'd never tried before, that I write a note so that if somebody finds me and I'm dead, they'll know that I didn't try to kill myself. Everything was fine. It was an accident. And so I literally had a notebook that was full of these notes that I had written. And I thought, what kind of person does this to their family? And my mother found my journal. My mother found, do you know what I mean? Like, how do you, I couldn't even imagine. And I had this kind of, I guess you'd call it an emotion, that some sort of feeling. And I've never been like shame-based or guilt-based, but this sympathetic, loving compassion for how hard she tried to stop me from killing myself, because it seemed the only thing I was trying to do. And yet I didn't see it that way at all, because honestly, I was too young. I didn't understand what death was. I just, you know, the closer you could get to the blacking out was the better high, is all I knew. And so the closer I could get to that line. So I wanted to somehow commemorate this 25 years anniversary in, I guess it was 2017, 16. And I was like, I could buy her a trip to Italy. You know, I buy my dad a car. What can I do? What could I possibly do for them that, one, they would even care about, two, that would be meaningful, three, that would be something that would convey the message of gratitude, not just making me, of course, because they created me, but giving them something that gave, I don't know, the depth of what I wanted to give back to them, I could not in any way describe. And I thought of all the things they gave me, the belief that my life was worth something, they loved me no matter what, and this thing that they did where they fostered whatever was going to work for me. Okay, that program didn't work, we'll find you a new one. You know, you need to be somewhere there's horses, we'll send you to Arizona, this treatment center that has horses. We will do whatever it takes, because whatever's in you that is so special, that we love so much, we have to figure out a way to make it work. And there were times when I was younger, I'd call my mom and I'm crying like you do. You know, you call somebody desperate for, my mom would talk to me about faith, talk to me about all things spiritual when I was struggling, and all of a sudden God didn't exist because I didn't get what I wanted. Or she was a very open-minded person who pushed me to challenge myself and would never give me an answer. And the thing that I kept not getting was that love is love, and they loved me, and it didn't matter because they loved me. Like everything was love again and again and again and again. And everywhere I turned, the solution was love, and the answer was always love. And that I was in charge of my own destiny, and I had the tools to figure it out, to love myself the way they loved me, and all that kind of crap. And so when I started, it was just going to be a letter. And then it started as kind of this little meditation routine with this picture of a bird and thinking about balance. And the thing that they gave me that's unique to them, not just being my parents, was this like philosophical, spiritual freedom. And I wanted to give them the rawest, most vulnerable thing, because Andrea doesn't show anybody who she is. So I will show to you the depths of my soul, what I have explored on a spiritual level. That is horrifyingly vulnerable to me. But it was the only way I could show them, you know what? I'm not faking it. I am bearing all to you on a platter to say, thank you for letting me be this comfortable in myself, that I can think these things, grow in this way. And they never turned their back on me. And all they ever did was support me and try to push me towards the light. So I wanted to give them a reflection back of what all of that had given me, which was this wonderful place inside where I can understand how to help myself get balanced, so I don't have to run around like a chicken with my head cut off in fear all the time. Because ultimately that's the gift they gave me, you know?
Wow.
So that was the inspiration for the book.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked that question. I mean,
an hour later.
No. And how, listen, trying to convey the gratitude that we have to our sponsors, to the people that are closest to us in the fellowship, to our parents, to our wives, ex-wives, husbands, ex-husbands, to our children.
Yep.
Think about the parents out there that were not present for 10, sometimes 20 years of their child's existence, and not being able to properly convey to them exactly what it is that they feel inside. Because, it's one thing to be in front of someone and say these things. It's an entirely different thing to be able to sit down and take time and just kind of process it and give some time, and then process it and then write some more, and then go back through all these journals and then really have that awareness. It's 25 years.
Yeah.
It's 25 years. And I didn't, to think that this is the gift that you give to your parents is the greatest gift that I can even imagine. So what was their reaction when you gave them the book?
Well, I wasn't there. I mean, I was living I think I was in Manila at the time. So I just FedExed them to arrive on September 22nd, or, don't open until. For those that don't know, which is probably every single person listening, but 4 of you, it's meant to be kind of you could do it for 90 days, one a day meditation thought and then journal space. And my mom's reaction was, oh, I read the whole thing twice. I'm like, well, not exactly how you're supposed to approach the book, but that's cool, right? The whole point is that you read the sentence, you think about what it means to you, you kind of ponder it, you imagine the metaphor of the whole thing is that I'm a bird on a branch. The tree is supporting me. I am a shadow. I am shadowed by the leaves, like everything. Because if Andrea thinks about Andrea, Andrea becomes insane. So if Andrea pretends she's a little bird sitting on a branch, Andrea can be a much more peaceful, loving person. And it was a nice way for me to say things that were very personal without it sounding personal, because I'm kind of private. I mean, I'm not really big on Facebook or any of that kind of stuff. And so it was a way for me to, and I don't really like lots of prose, although I can talk all day. I used to love to write a lot and make things really long and intricate and all these crazy details. And now I just really prefer the soothing simplicity of someone saying like, I love you. I'm like, oh, isn't that nice? I probably, because now I'm like an old lady, but I also underneath it all really, really, really love just like a chill, like deep breath that is relaxing and nice, much more than like an excited scream. Like, I'm like, no, man, like I just want to feel safe and loved and comfortable, and like the world is a happy place and not a negative place. So, anyway, and then my dad's reaction, I believe he teared up a little bit. Yeah, we had like some teary exchanges on the phone after that. He was the one that found a bed for me at my last treatment center. And so he told me the story about how that had gone down. Of course, I didn't know anything about it at the time, and how relieved he was. Actually, going to make me tear up now. When they did find the bed for me, because I had wanted for them to not be able to find one. And they knew that, So, yeah, no, I would say it was emotional and gratifying was the reaction.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So, what's really cool above everything, like everything else, it's that when our listeners are listening to this story right now, right, you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, 5 years just to catch up with my, with the people of my same age. So that's the first big thing, right? Because this is big. 25 years is big. And then the learning lessons that happen throughout 25 years, it doesn't happen overnight, right? It does not happen overnight. But the beautiful experiences that go on and the transformative expression of yourself and spirituality and connection and contribution, they just don't happen overnight. Nothing that is worth anything happens overnight. And the foundation that you build, that it just extends and expands, it gets stronger as the time goes on, and you learn to rely on it, brick and mortar. You learn to rely on this process of recovery. Like you say, I don't even think about it. It's part of who I am today, right? My recovery is just what it is. Like, I can't believe it's been almost 26 years, but now it's like, I can't imagine it being any other way. I think that that's the most important message to take away here, is that even though so many of our listeners are very early on, I can attest to it. The first 5 years, they tell you, you hear this, right? That's after the first 5 years, you finally get your head out of your ass,
Yeah.
right? So true that finally it's like, whoa, something really happened here. And it's like superpowers evolve, and I can actually use the shit that I just learned over the last 5 years and apply them and get benefit from them, and then give it back. Like,
absolutely.
Whoa, yeah.
Yep.
But you got to give yourself that chance and that break. So 25 years, one lesson. It's going to be in the show notes, right? Andrea, you know what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be
Tell me
doing
more.
a book of the month in the SHAIR recovery community. So I think yours would be a great book, and you can be the author of that month, right? And we can have all of our listeners, right, read for the month of whatever. I've got somebody right now for July. We're going to be doing Anna David, and then
Okay.
she's going to be, then it's going to be the first Tuesday. So July, so first Tuesday of August, right? Maybe we could read 25 years, one lesson in August for, that would be then September, right? August, September. Yeah. First week. What do you think?
I'm down. I think it sounds great.
Yes, I love it. So they get a chance to read it. They get a chance to like do the stuff, do the deal, and then we bring you on and they can ask you questions. I love it.
If I have never said no to anybody that wants help getting sober or finding how to trust their inner voice or anything, I am happy to. Anything you ever ask me to do, I will say yes. And that is something that I learned that has been true. And if it isn't something I want to do, it's even more important I say yes. So you'll never know whether I want to or not, but the answer is yes.
All right. This is phenomenal. All right. Listen, you know, it's funny. Like we've talked and we've hung out and I've gotten bits and pieces of your story, but it's always so awesome to hear someone's entire journey, right? And really getting to know that person, really getting to understand, you know, what's their makeup and what their substance is and the adversity that they faced, right? I'm trying to picture this little skinny girl in moccasins with holes in them, 16 years old, smoking a cigarette and drinking coffee, right? In high school.
Oh yeah, I went from like hacky sack circle to tent in the woods to, you know, get high with whoever, to the back of a pickup truck, to whoever's going to take me to some place in the woods where we can all get drunk around a fire pit. That was the kind of, you know, imagine there's no one else like that, right? It's not a type, is it? Just kidding. Yeah, that was me.
It's just so it's like I've been pushing against the seams. I have been pushing against
Everything.
Society, structure,
Yep.
and everything, right? I am going to do it my way, right? Even if it kills me.
I had a kid in rehab one day say to me, he's like, "Are you ever going to shave your legs?" And I was like, "What? Oh my God." Like I had forgotten people do that. Like, yeah, I had to have the bottom half of my head shaved when I got to treatment because I had so many gnarly, I had tried to kind of do this dread thing and it got all, I don't want to say there was lice in it, but yeah, I was a beaut. I mean, I was not getting chased by men. I was not that kind of alcoholic.
If anything, I had created my own force field.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is I always had deodorant. I liked, you know, stealing stuff like that was great, but it's easy. But I routinely forgot that other people saw me because I was usually so fucked up that even when I got sober, I didn't understand like, oh, now people can see me because I just had never seen that, you know, like this invisibility cloak took a long time for me to realize that other people could in fact see me that whole time, you know? Oh my God. But yeah, yes. I remember the first time I got like a new t-shirt at treatment because I had like hand-me-down clothes. I didn't have really anything. I think my dad had given me 2 t-shirts that were like new. And then my roommates gave me things. I always donate my clothes if I can to halfway houses and women's treatment centers, because even though I come from, I mean, both my parents have professional jobs. We were not a low income family by any stretch. And I showed up in treatment with a pair of moccasins, a pair of jean shorts, hairy fucking legs, disgusting, you know, half lice infested dreadlocks, and nothing to wear. Like I had a long time before I went to a store and could afford to buy normal clothes like that. I was embarrassed of that more than I was embarrassed of being a drug addict. I mean, that's ridiculous. But I was shameless when it came to my drinking. Shameless if I, pissed in your car seat, but embarrassed that I had to wear a shirt someone gave me because I didn't have any clothes. Like, anywho, sorry, sidetrack.
No, but it goes to why we use in the first place, right?
Yeah,
We don't
absolutely.
care.
No, we don't care.
There's no need to worry about which is kind of almost a beautiful statement in and of itself, because really there's no need for that. There's no need for me to care about what other people think about me. I don't have to take it to the extreme.
I know,
right?
right?
where I'm not, where I'm actually to a certain degree repulsive. I mean, okay, but there is that whole idea that when I use and I drink, I don't have to be accepted by anybody but myself. Right? I can feel at peace with who I am, just the way I am, every way that I am. And that is the one thing that I will say, that drugs and alcohol unlock that doorway. They unlock that doorway for us to see who we truly are, who we really want to be, and how we see ourselves, accept ourselves, love ourselves. That's what we were trying. Yeah, absolutely. That's what it does. Then it just goes south fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So it's just a doorway, and then once we come in, then, getting back to that doorway minus the drugs and alcohol is really the journey. That's the journey of recovery, where I don't need anyone to accept me except for me. I don't need anyone to love me except for me. And then from there, I come out into the world a different person with love and acceptance for others based on the love and acceptance I have for myself.
You know what breaks my heart sometimes? When I'll see people, sometimes 2 days, sometimes a week, a month, really, really early and struggling, and they're uncomfortable in their own skin. And I want to say to them, hey, I understand. I've been there. I love you. I don't care what you feel like right now. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And they can't hear it. And I was that. And I understand where they're at. And yet it still hurts me a little bit that they can't hear it. Like that's a horrible place to be. A horrible, horrible place to be. And when we say it, we fucking mean it, because we are you. You know what I mean? Yes, but I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear it.
I still do it, though. I still do it. I do it. I go up and I'm like, once that's there, and I'll say, I love you, brother. And you'll get this like, oh, man.
Yeah, it's awkward. They feel uncomfortable. Right? Yeah, yeah.
And then I say, well, like they say here, we're going to love you till you learn to love yourself.
That was huge for me. I couldn't understand that, but I relied on it.
And whether there's something inside of them that connects with that, right?
Yep.
So there's part of them that wants to push away and resist, but somewhere inside, right, they need it.
I think alcoholics are some of the most sensitive people. Oh, yeah. And we're very loving, and we're too loving. As much as we might be, we drink too much, we love too much in a lot of ways. So it's like this balancing act of, just kind of taming everything that needs to be tamed. Not so dramatic and so many extremes and all of that. And I think you get your feelings hurt and you love too hard, and then it hurts too bad and you just turn it off. So yeah, having that kind of woken back up and soothed, like a beaten animal out of, an underpass. You're like, it's okay to come out. They're snapping and snarling at you, it's okay, come out. And they're stinky. They got like oil and they're missing an ear. Like, stains all over them. They stink. It's okay. We love you. Come here. That's what I felt like. And people just kept putting up with me. I look back and I think, man, what these people must have thought of me. I cannot imagine. I cannot wait. Actually, next month, I'm going to be in the storage unit that has the photos that I have, because thank God, no internet, no cell phone photos were around when I got sober. And so I've got a photo album of some photos from when I was that age. So it'll be interesting to see if I can find anything good, because I can't imagine. I mean, if that kid came up to me now, I'd be like, where's my wallet? I wouldn't say I love you.
Yes. Yes.
Well, no, I mean, I would, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
I do. But I think the most important message, well, there's a bunch of them, but in this particular case, the I love you facet, right? That whole idea of loving ourselves, right? Of showing compassion and love and empathy and care to ourselves is so difficult to take in, but those drugs and alcohol make it easier, right? Like it's easier for you to say, I love you, man. You know, yeah, I love you too, man. And then the hug fest happens and all that kind of stuff. And then you're sober and like, no, I didn't say that. Right. And deep down inside at our core, that's who we are. We're love.
Absolutely.
We're an expression of love. We want to love. We want to be love. We want to give love. And that's what we're put on here, this earth to do, and that's what we're doing. I love you, Andrea.
I love you, Omar.
See, that's easy.
Can you get the little star twinkle?
I'm going to see if I can get that to happen with the iMovies when I edit this, which
Perfect.
Needs no editing. All right. So we're going to start closing down, Andrea. What do you say?
I'm ready.
All right. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions about your early recovery. You're going to respond with inspiring and insightful answers you can share with our newcomers. Are you ready?
Is there a timer?
No.
Oh, God. Okay. I was like, okay, I'm ready.
This is not a lightning round. Okay.
Okay.
Number 1, what was keeping you from getting clean or staying clean when you first got introduced to recovery?
I actually thought my life was under control. So when I heard people say, oh, your life is unmanageable, your life is out of control, I was like, oh, no, not me. That doesn't apply. I've got this shit on lockdown. What do I need your help with? And then second part of that would be I had gotten taken, oh gosh, I think I was 14 when I got taken my first NA meeting. And I remember this lady sobbing about having her kids taken away from her. And I was like, I don't belong here. What is this shit? I couldn't identify with anybody. It is ultimately what was keeping me from getting sober.
Beautiful, beautiful. And number 2, at what point did you have a spiritual awakening, that aha moment in recovery when you accepted that you were powerless over drugs and alcohol, but for the first time developed the hope that you could recover?
Oh, fire pit meeting, 4 months, Tucson, Arizona. I want to say it was a Thursday night, but it might have been a Sunday. And I want to say it was a combination of I had just enough time that I could see how crazy the people coming in with 10 days really were. Like I was no longer in that first 90-day, like psychotic brain warp shit that you come into treatment with. And we had like no psych meds, none of that. This was like, you came there, you were stone cold sober, and we had nicotine and caffeine, and that was it. So I started to notice I was no longer in the group of people that like snuck behind the van and made jokes or talked about escaping. I was now in the group that, got there 5 minutes early and had a notepad in my hand ready to talk in group. And I was like, wait, what? So it was that 4-month point where I honestly feel like it was just God, instead of kicking me in the ass, just, I don't know. He just said, it's okay, come this way. And I was like, oh, that sounds nice. He made it peaceful, so I didn't have to try so hard because I don't want to ask anybody for anything. And so he said, okay, fine. You don't have to ask me. I'll just give it to you, because I had been praying for willingness to be willing. And I think that day I became willing.
The thing I like most about that aha moment is that, at least for the listeners, right? That was 4 months in, 4 months in. And I remember mine was about 6 months in, right? So right in that, 3 to 6 month range where they tell you that's why, 90 meetings in 90 days kind of a thing. Give yourself a chance.
Absolutely. Right? Your body is not clear. Your head's not clear. You don't know your head from your ass. You're running on fumes of the old you. The new you doesn't even exist. It's a pipe dream at that point, but you've got consequences lining up and you've got nowhere to go. Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah. 90 days is just the primer. Yes.
But the good news is that somewhere in that 90 day to 6 month period, right? The 3 to 6 month period,
Mm-hmm.
so many of the aha moments come.
Agreed.
So many of those aha moments where you're like, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is actually working. Like, I maybe don't want everybody to know about it, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to hold on to being cool.
Exactly.
But this, I feel different. I kind of dig it. You know what I mean? So that's where that hope is. Don't give up after a week or a month. Give yourself at least 6 months for that awakening to happen. And if you do what we did, it will probably happen. I can, it's happened to so many people.
I always encourage people to prove all of us wrong.
I like that.
So if you don't think it's going to happen, that's great. Prove me wrong. Stay sober a year then and tell me your life doesn't get better, asshole. I've never seen somebody it didn't work with. Not the challenge. I've seen plenty of people not take the challenge. I mean, if you stay sober a year, your life will get better, period. So
that was my deal to me. That was my deal to me. I'm going to do this thing for a year. Right. I don't even know where the fuck that came from, but I just remember going, all right, I'll do this thing for a year and I'll do this step thing, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? I'll do it for a year. And 6 months in, the light bulb just went off and I went, oh, dude.
Yeah. All you guys that are in this cult, you're not sucking me in. Thanks. But I'll stick around. Right. Yeah.
All right. So number 3, do you have a favorite book that you would recommend to a newcomer that you read in early recovery?
Forever and always, my book will be The Way to Love by Anthony DeMello.
I know that's
it's the first book that decoded how my brain worked. I was like, every single thing I ever read, I could talk my way out of, reason my way around, loop-de-loo, some mental answer to why I was different or it didn't apply to me. And I read DeMello and I was like, oh, you got me.
I love it. Okay, so before we go on to the last 2 questions, tell our listeners how they can reach out to you, how they can find you, the name of your book, where to find that. Go.
Okay, so on Twitter, I'm 25 years, 1 lesson. The 25 is like a 2-5, and the 1 is a 1. But you can get in touch with Omar, and he can tag you and me on Twitter if you want. I'm in the SHAIR recovery group, although I don't really understand how to use Facebook very much. So I just kind of go on there and I'm like, everybody's typing. But if you see me on there, feel free, send me a note. I think you can DM people in the group, right? If we're all in the same group. So that's Andrea Dye, D-Y-E is my last name, like the hair dye. And then I've got a link to the book on Amazon. If you Google my name, Andrea Dye, and Amazon, the book should come up. It's got a bird sitting on the front. It's not my spirit animal. I've been asked that. It is not my spirit animal. I don't know what that means.
What is your spirit animal?
Oh, I don't have one. I don't know what that is, but that's some like yoga thing. I don't know what that is. I don't know what a spirit animal is.
No, I think it's it might be, or it could just be an animal. You ever heard of an animal totem? Your animal totem. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're off. Could be some indigenous thing. All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, great. Okay, folks, show notes. Go to Andrea's show notes on the SHAIR podcast website. Everything will be listed there. Twitter, the link to the book, all that good stuff. All right. Number 4. What is the best suggestion you have ever received?
That's a tie. One is to stop thinking, because I always thought I could outthink everything. And unfortunately, that's not great. That one for me personally was the best advice, but kind of proactive life advice was ask for help. Like, you need help, just fucking ask. You don't know what to do, ask somebody. You feel unsure of how to proceed on your own, ask for somebody to help you do it with you. Like, it blew my mind that I could ask somebody for help. Like, imagine.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. That's as simple as it is, absolutely profound. Absolutely. And it's not just recovery teaches us to ask for help, to pick up the 1,000-pound phone, to make
Yep.
the phone call, to reach out, to have a close group of people in your network. But this is also part of life, right?
I
We go
hated
on.
admitting I
Yeah.
needed it. I didn't want anyone to know I was weak
Yeah.
or that they were powerful enough they could help me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, Jesus, talk about like putting my ego in check. I really did not like that.
Which neither of those statements is true. You're not weak, and no one is more powerful. It's not about that.
No, but
It's
that's what my like
yeah, I
thinking
know,
at the
but
time
that's what I'm
was,
saying.
right? It's insane. Yeah. Yeah.
The truth is, both of that is bunk, right? That's just resistance to growth. Did you like that? It's bunk.
We want to name our dog Bunk, actually.
Oh, stop it.
It's a great fucking name.
Name your dog Bunk.
Who's that? Oh, that's Bunk.
Yeah, it rhymes so much with spunk. Both sound weird. Okay. If you could give our newcomers only one suggestion, what would it be?
I would say surround yourself with hope. I think, okay, simple, simple, simple.
Mhm.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Mhm.
If I take in garbage, I'm going to live garbage. I take in good, I'm going to live good. So, oh, every time I go to my mom's house, she's saying, nah, 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 nah. Oop, sounds like garbage to me. Like, what do you think? How do you think you're going to feel? Garbage in, garbage out.
Beautiful. All right. Andrea, that was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Peace.
Right?
It was really, 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 really insightful to hear what came to my mind because I don't think about this stuff all the time. I was like, oh, the hacky sack circles.
Where did all that come from? Jesus.
Yeah, I know. Those were the days. Those were the days. My poor little moccasins are probably, I don't know, probably a bird's nest at this point, somewhere in the Adirondacks. But
We would hope so.
no, I hope
We would hope so. Recycled.
anybody, anywhere that wants to change their life can, is truly what I believe. Anybody, anywhere, doesn't matter how far gone you think you are, there's hope. If there's anything I could say to anybody. You know, we've been there, the darkest places inside ourselves, aside from all the bullshit that happens around us when we're drinking, doesn't compare to the pain inside when I was drinking. And that has been healed and like a new person. I mean, I am literally not the same person I was.
And that is how we're going to close. Folks, we have now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
Oh, pura vida.
And that is a wrap.